The United States, a place where we have the most toxic relationship with cars, where getting into an accident in our used Corolla somehow warrants a brand new Tesla purchase or a purchase on a brand new Camry, all in the name of saving money on gas. You've probably heard that one before, right? Experian claims that the average borrowed amount for new vehicles in the US is about $41,000 and $26,000 for used vehicles. We really like getting into auto loan debt. So in today's video, we're going to educate some of the Yanks in the US on how you can save some money owning a motorcycle. Now, before all the Dave Ramsey fans scream at me for this, I gotta preface this with a few things. Motorcycles by and large are seen as a hobby here in the US, where people don't really look at them as a mode of transportation, rather something outside of your primary vehicle that you could just have fun with and throw money at. That's sort of the case for what I'm going to explain here, but you got to be more strategic is my point. So I'm not going to compare buying a brand new motorcycle and a brand new car compared to one new Toyota Camry. Instead, what I plan on doing is sharing my personal example of me buying my 2005 4Runner and my 2015 Yamaha Bolt, and how that has really saved me a lot more money than going out and buying, let's say, a 2025 Camry to save money on gas. And look, the goal of this video is not for me to make you feel bad if you recently bought a new car. If you got one and it's within your means, that's great. But the vast majority of people in the US have a car problem, whether it's buying too many, whether it's taking out too much in loans. And so that's why I'm just sharing an interesting take on, hey, if you are open to motorcycles and having a vehicle that can get you great MPG and have a lot of fun while doing it, why not look at this option? So let's dive into it. So here's all the factors that I'm going to be taking into account for the total cost of ownership. Now, we don't have to get into the financing details, but I'm going to show the upfront and initial costs to get into my vehicles and to get into a 2025 Camry for this example. Something very cordial, nothing too crazy. And then we're going to show the annual insurance and average maintenance costs combined, the annual gas cost, and then the annual registration cost. So we're going to have the upfront cost to get into the vehicles, and then the annual recurring cost total on how much it's going to take to operate these on an annual basis. Here's what we're looking at from a cost analysis. So the initial cost is $35,000. I put that range because that's right in the middle, assuming you throw in a few packages there, but it's not fully spec'd out. So the annual recurring cost is actually where this gets pretty interesting. Now, annual insurance in California, however you pay for it, it costs a lot of money, especially for a 2025 vehicle. And that's where you really get screwed in this example. So let me elaborate. I am in my late 20s, and if I were to have a 2025 Camry, the estimates came out to roughly $250 to $300 a month to have full coverage. Now, we're not degenerates. We don't rock just liability insurance. This is assuming you're doing full coverage, because that's what I've also had on my 4Runner and my Yamaha Bolt. Now, multiple resources have also shared that the average maintenance cost is really good on the Camry, where most vehicles typically tip the scale at about $600 annually a year. On a 10-year basis, the 2025 Camry came out to about $445 for this example. So the $3,445 total is assuming a $250 a month payment on insurance with that annual $445 cost on maintenance. Now, average gas cost. You're correct in assuming that the Camry does really well in gas. It gets about 50 mpg combined, which is insane to hear nowadays. And we get the $720 cost because I average about 9,000 miles a year annually. The hidden cost really with the 2025 Camry comes into the car registration. It's something that people don't really anticipate or think about, but when you have a 2025 vehicle, it costs a lot of money to register that on an annual basis. So that coming in at $589 is quite a bit, and it's a hidden cost that people don't really factor into their budget. 35 grand, whether you pay that cash, whether you finance that, that's the upfront cost. And then we also have the $47.54 annual recurring cost total that we're going to have to keep in mind. So put a pin in that, remember that. Let's move on to the 4Runner and Yamaha Bolt example. So the variables remain the same. About 9,000 miles a year is what we're averaging out. I have 4,000 miles annually on my 05 4Runner and 5,000 on my 2015 Bolt. I've owned the 4Runner for 5 years. I've had the Bolt for 7. And all the data associated with insurance or maintenance or gas costs or registration are directly pulled from what I've paid in the past. Now, it's easy to look at these numbers and just say, okay, why don't I just go buy a used Camry then? And that would make a lot more sense. You can get it for less money, and the first couple years are where people see the most appreciation, but that's not the point of this example. The point of this example is to illustrate how important is lane assist, how important are heat seaters, how important are all of these features and tech that are thrown into new vehicles nowadays that are, in my eyes, just extremely unnecessary. I would much rather have the ability to hop on a motorcycle where I can safely lane split and get to destinations quicker when I don't need any sort of cargo space needed, and then have my 4Runner for use cases where I'm trying to lug stuff around, I'm trying to go camping and do all the outdoorsy stuff that I like. You get the best of both worlds, you're not paying as much up front, and the annual recurring cost, it's a very nominal amount more than if you were to buy a brand new vehicle, again, for the sake of having a few more amenities and saving a little bit on gas. So there you have it. That's my weekly soapbox, is stop buying brand new cars because they're going to be so outdated in just a few years with how many screens and unnecessary BS they keep throwing on top of them. And if you're open to a motorcycle, maybe look into buying a used bike, buying a used car, and you could have the MPG of a bike when you need it, and then you could have the fun with whatever car you want and not really sweat how much you're paying in gas because the bike's there to offset all of that. There's a big traffic problem, car problem, auto loan problem with people in the United States. Even though this is seen as a hobby, I hope that in the future people see motorcycles and bikes as more of a mode of transportation, because if more people were on bikes, we would technically have less traffic and less congestion in big city areas like where I live in Southern California. And I think overall it would help out the whole traffic situation that most people run into nowadays. Now, I'm someone who really does like to talk about personal finance, and I also love to talk about motorcycles. So I loved making this video and drawing the example to basically illustrate to people that you really can have both sides of the coin if you want to have something that most would consider a toy, but then also come out on top from a financial sense and not have to break the bank to do it. So let me know in the comment section if you guys like this type of content, if you want to see something else like this. I appreciate you watching the video today, and I will catch you on the next one.